Call on Government Order of the Day number 2 and 3.
Riccarton Racecourse Development Enabling Bill, first reading. Riccarton Racecourse Bill, first reading.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Riccarton Racecourse Development Enabling Bill and the Riccarton Racecourse Bill be now read a first time. I nominate the Local Government and Environment Committee to consider the bills. At the appropriate time, I intend to move that the bills be reported to the House by the 7th of March 2016. Mr Speaker, the Christchurch housing market has been experiencing significant pressure from the time of the major earthquakes in 2010 and 2011. Rebuild activity is well underway, particularly in the residential sector, and there is a parallel between this bill in the housing space and the bill that has just been introduced from my colleague Jerry Brownlee, who has been leading the huge recovery work in that city. Good progress has been made on the residential recovery. If we look at the building consent figures, we saw them soar to 4 times their normal historic levels. New supply, though, has been disproportionately in the higher price brackets, and this bill is aimed at not just increasing supply, but also ensuring that we grow supply in the range that is more affordable. Mr Speaker, while I am happy with the overall progress of the residential rebuild that has involved hundreds of millions of dollars of investment by Housing New Zealand, that has involved the use of temporary housing on reserves, that's involved massive repair work and programs, I am concerned that we need to do more to produce more houses at the affordable end of the market. The majority of the homes that were in that Canterbury classic phrase of being munted were actually homes that were older and in the more affordable range. It is typically the more affordable stock that actually provides an entry point for people looking to purchase their first home. We've worked with the Christchurch City Council on the Housing Accord to help bring on stream new housing developments, and just last week in the central city was with Mayor Leanne Dalzell turning the sod on some of the residential development in the central business district between the 4 avenues. There remains a further need, though, to increase the supply of housing at the affordable end, and also that which is in reasonably close proximity to the city. The Board of Trustees that governs the Riccarton Racecourse contacted me with a proposal to convert part of the racecourse into housing development. Their proposal involves building at least 600 new homes on the site, and in the discussions with government have agreed that a minimum 30% or 180 of these homes will be targeted at the more affordable end of the market. It also allows the land to generate additional income for the Riccarton Racecourse Board, and this income can be used not only to reinvest in the facilities of the racecourse, provide infrastructure assets that are important to the broader part of Christchurch, and to provide greater support for racing activities. This housing development will provide a significant number of new homes for Christchurch, and the government's position is quite consistent that actually supply is at the core of addressing affordability issues. It's especially true, as I've said, for houses that are at the more affordable end of the market. The government has its very successful Home Start scheme that has had a very high level of pickup in Christchurch, but we want to make sure that there are homes for those people that are eligible for those grants. The Riccarton Racecourse is a reserve governed both by the Riccarton Racecourse Reserve Act of 1878 and the 1977 Reserves Act. These acts pose a barrier to the board's housing proposal, and the best way to address those is through legislative change. Combined with the current pressure on the Christchurch housing market, this creates a unique situation and we believe legislation is the best way in which to allow this housing development to proceed. It's worth reflecting on the fact that at the time the Riccarton Racecourse was established and the legislation was passed by this Parliament in 1878, the racecourse was a long way from the city. It was 20 years before the first car came to New Zealand, and nobody would ever have envisaged that the city would grow so much that it would now be well within the city limits. It's now only a short drive to the city. It's nestled within a vibrant suburb with good access to schools, to local shops and to other communities and facilities. It is exactly the kind of location where new housing is needed, and I would put to the House, Mr Speaker, to have this land underutilised, sitting vacant, is actually not best use of this country's resources. It is a long established rule of this Parliament, Mr Speaker, that any amendment to an Act that has been passed as a local bill must be promoted by the relevant local authority. I want to inform the House that the Christchurch City Council has agreed to support the development and to promote the local bill, the Riccarton Racecourse Bill, to make the necessary changes to the local Act. The Riccarton Racecourse is also subject to a right of first refusal under Ngāi Tahu's settlement legislation, and we have gone to some care with these bills to ensure that that first right of refusal is recognised and protected. Finally, Mr Speaker, I do want to acknowledge the Business Committee in agreeing to consider these bills being developed as cognate bills. In fact, as an older member of the House for some time, the way in which the Business Committee is able to make pragmatic decisions of that sort and to enable a single debate and process through the House and Select Committee just makes common sense. Given neither bill can achieve its aims without the other, it is appropriate that they are considered as a single legislative package by this House and by the Select Committee. Mr Speaker, this is a pragmatic bill that's designed in such a way that it will support racing in Canterbury, it supports the earthquake recovery, it results in more sensible use of this area of land, and I commend both bills to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Dr.